Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Straight Jacket White Rabbit. As usual, I'll be your host. My name's Adam. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about an up-and-coming star as far as locations go with UAP, hidden technologies, things of this nature. I'm talking about what some have dubbed Area 52. That's right, we're going to be talking about Dugway Proving Grounds, you guys, in Utah. Now, Dugway Proving Ground is about 80 miles from Salt Lake City. It is a vast military area cordoned off with the same old that you had at Area 51. Miles of barbed wire fence, patrolled by white trucks and SUVs with armed military personnel who will not hesitate to pull you out of your car at gunpoint or shoot you. Authorized use of deadly force is approved at Dugway, apparently. And I'm just going to start off by saying one thing about that. Be it Area 51, be it Dugway, I never understood that. Since when is trespassing a killable offense in our country? I get it. It's military, secretive, all that stuff. But you're telling me you have the right to shoot civilians who don't see your markers out in the middle of the desert or happen to, be dirt biking out in the desert. It always bothered me that these places have a license to kill for trespassing. Anyways, just a sidebar thought. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. Now, Dugway Proving Ground, you guys, has been open for a very long time. It actually started being commissioned, I believe, in the late 40s. Could be early 40s. They didn't get busy on it until a little bit after its commission the following spring. It was 42, matter of fact. It was 1942. I do apologize. So they established the base in February of 42, but it was not actually built until the following spring in 43. Dugway, let me give you an idea of how big this place is, okay? A lot of people talk about how big, Area 51 is out there in the Nevada Salt Flats, and it is a fairly large base. It encompasses a lot of ground, even though what you can actually see on the base isn't, like a lot of these bases, isn't that spectacular and not even that big. It's what's underground that's the large part. Here's the thing. Dugway Proving Ground, you guys, is enormous section of military land. It's nearly 800,000 acres. Let me put this in terms you can understand. It's roughly the size of Rhode Island, okay? The buildings that are there are these small, inconsequential little buildings. There's not much there, a few hangars. But there has been leaked by a few different sources over the years that there is a vast network of military compounds underneath Dugway, as well as, obviously, Area 51. Now, Dugway has some interesting history, and I just want to kind of go into this because it'll help you understand where I'm coming from on my view of this. Dugway Proving Grounds has a history of bad practices, accidents, disappearances, possibly murders, depending on what you tend to believe, as well as just a lot of really weird activity in the air, on the ground, light shows, UFOs, man-made UFOs. It's just kind of got it all. Weird smells even. So let's just jump into this, I guess, right away. So, like I said, 1943, spring of 1943, they begin construction. They do their thing. They build their base. And this base is supposed to be for testing of biological weapons and things of this nature. Nerve gases, things like that. But it's also a base used for advancing new military technology, similar to what Area 51 was. So I get why everyone's calling it Area 52. But this place has the worst record you could possibly imagine for accidents, leaks, all kinds of manner of things. I'm going to start out and I don't necessarily think I'm going to do them in order. I may or may not. But I just want to kind of list to you some of these things. Okay, so back in I believe it was early 60s, there were 6,000 sheep. Okay, that's a lot of sheep, you guys. 6,000 sheep all of a sudden just dropped dead while they were out on their own land grazing. This is not on Dugway. This is on their land, other people's land adjacent to this base. The farmer wakes up. He finds his entire livestock just gone, wiped out, deceased. And he's understandably upset. Well, after a long investigation, they basically paid the man an undisclosed amount of money, and this incident was swept under the rug until many years later, when it came out that this was caused by VX gas. And anyone who knows what VX gas is, it's one of the most terrible things that you could possibly make as far as a biological weapon goes. It's, I mean, your skin bubbling off and melting. It's nasty, nasty stuff. They said it was a small contamination leak that led to this incident occurring. But in my mind, 6,000 sheep don't drop dead from some small, industrial accident. That's a pretty big accident, a 6,000 sheep whoopsie. They've had reports of missing people who have just vanished from this base. One notable missing persons was actually a member of the Air Force stationed at this base who called a friend of his one night, letting his friend know that he was out of gas. The friend said he sounded kind of tense and odd, but I mean, running out of that gas in the middle of the desert will do that to you. But here's where it gets weird. When they found this man's truck, it was in the bombing range on the base, you guys, an active bombing range. While the truck was low on fuel, it was not out of fuel. They were able to start the truck and drive it back onto the base property. There's no bones found. There's, some signs of people, footprints and stuff, but nothing concrete to, lead us to know what happened to this soldier. He just up and vanished. A lot of people are saying that one of the reasons this man vanished, and this was back in the early 2000s, but one of the reasons this man vanished supposedly was because he had threatened to leak information about a UFO program, specifically a reverse engineering program. His father doesn't necessarily know if that was true or not, but his father believes that the military is hiding something because they've not only pretty much given up any assistance in looking for this missing member, which they listed as AWOL. How are you going to label somebody as missing when their truck and stuff is on your base? If they went missing on your base, that doesn't mean they're AWOL, does it? Shouldn't you be finding them if they were on your base? Don't you think it might behoove you to look for them if this happened? But no, the military swept it under the rug, said, well, missing person, he must have ran away or hiked out into the desert and got lost. Who knows? But they're not spending any time or effort looking for this young man. Now, other than the disappearances and the 6,000 sheep accident, there's a lot of other weird things. There's reports of disappearing and reappearing aircraft and vehicles. A former police officer on the nearby Gashute Reservation claimed to see a flying saucer speed away after being illuminated by a beam of light. which was followed by 2 fighter jets pursuing the same trajectory as the UFO. So this thing was in the sky, a beam of light hits it, it takes off like it doesn't want to be spotted, and then you see 2 military jets chasing it, fighter jets chasing it in pursuit. There have been many accounts like this. There have been accounts of beams of light hitting stuff in the sky and then all of a sudden illuminating the fact that there's a UFO there. Like it was somehow cloaked before this ray of light hit the UFO. And once it hit it, it was visible to the eye and it would zoom off into the distance. So is this new technology that we're working on as humans, are we working on a way to detect these craft while they're cloaked in our skies? I'm all for that, don't get me wrong. But I wish they'd just come out and let us know this. Now, there have been some other really interesting things that happened at Dugway that involve light. There is a man named Dave Rosenfeld. He's a ufologist. He's been looking into Dugway for almost 15, 20 years now. And he caught some of the most impressive photos of these light anomalies that people are reporting from Dugway that have ever been released. I'm going to see if I can put these up here, matter of fact, right here for you. While I'm doing that, I'm going to keep talking. But these beams of light are miles off in the distance, miles and miles from where he's actually able to stand and take these photographs. But this tells us a lot of information because we know generally the type of distance. We know that these beams were enormous. I mean, enormous. We're talking larger than a football field, you guys. Okay? And this wasn't just some beam of light that shot up like a laser show. It's not a Pink Floyd concert, okay? We're talking about a beam of light that when fired off was so bright that it momentarily lit the sky enough to brighten the local area. Following this huge light show, Dave Rosenfeld and others who were there with him claimed to smell this weird, static, kind of a thunderstorm smell that was so intense that they couldn't believe it wasn't actually raining and like lightning and thunderstorming. But long story short, we have no explanation for these. Was this some kind of high-tech weapons test? Was this one of their reverse engineered components of the UFO craft being test fired? It's a really interesting few pictures he took, and the thing is this is not the first time this has been seen at Dugway. It is the first time people have gotten a really good photo of it, though. Also, a 2015 event at a UFO camp on the south end of Dugway involved a beam of light accompanied by another static-like smell and blue lights. Now, this time when the beam was fired off, there were actually objects in the sky that seemed to almost come in and investigate what was going on. These light bluish orbs were coming down along this huge pillar of light that was fired off. Did we spark something's curiosity? Was this the intent? Were we trying to signal these ships? I mean, I can't say that I know, and that I know of, it's never been released, or given any viable, explanation of what this light was. Now, going away from the light for a minute, there have been a few researchers who have claimed to see military convoys of invisible vehicles. Well, some people ask, well, how do you see an invisible vehicle? It's fairly easy. They have witnessed out on these dirt roads or all around Dugway dust trails being kicked up along these roads, just like if there was a car driving on them, except for there was nothing visible on the road. These were, 30, 40, 50, sometimes 100 yards worth of dust trails that are forming brand new, like a tire's kicking up the dirt and it's going back this way. And they're watching these things appear out on these roads with binoculars and high-powered telescopes and things, but there's no vehicles present. There's nothing on the road that could make these trails of dirt and things kick up. Now, a lot of people believe that all of these things can be attributed to the fact that it's a high-tech facility, you guys. This is where we do a lot of, special black projects on military craft and other things. And I'm fine with that. I'm not saying it's not. As a matter of fact, I'm a huge proponent that the Dugway Proving Grounds is the home of the TR-3B. For those of you who don't know what the TR-3B is, it's a triangular UFO-looking craft that is not so much unidentified because it's made by our government. Now, a lot of people claim that this is just a fictional craft, but there have been leaked plans on this, you guys. Many people who have seen it, many people who were involved in the production of said materials for this craft. There's just too many people and too many connections who've all seen or had something to do with creating this craft who've spoken out. So they can call it a conspiracy theory craft or whatever they want, a next generation craft. But the fact of the matter is they're real. They look almost indistinguishable from an actual UFO. It's got the 3 lights, one on each corner, and then a 4th light, which is slightly larger, right in the middle of the triangle. Now, a lot of people fall under the category of, the triangle UFOs are ours. I fall more under the category of some triangle UFOs are ours. They're reverse engineered craft. But there are still triangular craft that are absolutely 1,000% not ours. I believe what Dugway Proving Grounds is I believe it is a place where we test reverse engineered technology, amongst the other things that it obviously is. Like, I have no doubt that they do chemical weapons testing and all the things they say that they do to the public. I have no doubt they do those things there. But what I'm saying is it's not just this. They are doing some highly experimental things with aircraft and invisibility and cloaking systems, weapons systems, some kind of energy-based weapons or energy-based maybe a signal. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm kind of grasping at straws as to what that giant light flash could be. And now, there's only been a few instances of it being seen, but it has been seen on multiple occasions, more than 3 that I know of. You figure people would want to, ask a little more questions and find out what's going on with this, and you figure the military would at least try to give a BS answer like they normally do. But no, they will not disclose what the lights are. They will not disclose pretty much anything that goes on Dugway. Dugway has a history of being accident prone, not just the 6,000 sheep that were killed or their own people going missing on the base. Here's another example for you. Do you know that it was Dugway Proving Grounds that sent vials of live anthrax virus to laboratories around the United States without warning? People died from this, you guys. This is a serious news story that actually happened. They sent anthrax, live attenuated viruses, to multiple laboratories. And they called it a clerical error and a mistake. But they were never really held to the fire. They were never really investigated. What, did they investigate themselves? Now, I also want to talk to you a little bit about BAE Systems, which the reason I'm bringing up BAE Systems, you guys, it's kind of like the UK version of Lockheed Skunk Works, okay? We know for a fact that our UFO program and reverse engineering programs have to do with this company. We've sublet or subleased some of this tech to these companies to try to figure out. Thanks to amazing whistleblowers, we do know that this has happened, even though they do, to this day, still deny it. Although, I mean, are we really surprised? Lockheed Skunk Works still denies it. Boeing still denies it. All of our major technological companies that have had access to these technologies, they're all going to deny it because they kind of have to. It's all under the umbrella of national security. So there's not really a choice for them there. But the reason I'm bringing up the whole reason I'm bringing up the BAE or BAE systems is because I've heard rumors now that they've been contracting different projects, I'll say, out of Dugway. And I think it's a little weird that they're now getting involved at Dugway when people are seeing all of this advanced crafts and things starting to more predominantly take over the skyline there. I definitely think it has something to do with it. But here's the thing, you guys. A lot of UFO researchers are talking about, like I said at the beginning of the video, oh, well, Dugway is the new Area 51. It's Area 52. It's really not, you guys. They're not storing the UFOs or UAPs at Dugway. I'm almost positive of it. What they're storing at Dugway is things that they've been able to figure out, things they've been able to reverse engineer off of these craft. And they're using them and finding out their potentials and their uses for and said technologies and so on and so forth. Like the TR-3B. That's not a UFO. That's our UFO. That's our craft. So they're testing it at Dugway. I believe that a lot of this, you guys, people don't understand how much secrecy goes on here. They're not going to keep doing all this stuff at a base you can see while keeping all of these crashed or whatever you want to call them, retrieved UFOs at that base. That's why they haven't been at freaking Area 51 in forever. They moved them to a mountain inside of S4. And honestly, I'm pretty sure they've moved them from S4 to multiple different bases because we've had, over the years, reports of these craft being at bases all over the United States. There are, March Air Force Base out in California. The obvious ones, Area 51, S4, Dugway Proving Grounds. The list goes on and on and on, you guys. And it's literally the West Coast, the East Coast, and up and down Central America. There's bases all over where we store these craft, and it all depends on where the attention is at, which base is being looked at, which bases are being scrutinized. They're keeping this stuff secret for a reason. Even if I don't agree with the reason, they're doing a good job of it for the most part. Now, have they had whistleblowers and things like that? Yes, absolutely. But Dugway is one of the best kept secrets because of the fact that no verified whistleblowers from Dugway have ever come forward with anything of substantial proof, evidence, or information, I'll say, classified information or not. They've never had a whistleblower come forward officially. They've had people threaten to. They've had people leak small things that I believe weren't really leaked. They were put out on purpose. But mostly, Dugway Proving Grounds to me seems like a bunch of people who are playing around with things they don't understand. They've been accused of poisoning the local water supply. People claim that their water started having weird tastes and even colors in the water. And quite frankly, they all blame Dugway. All the local residents say that the weird smells that float through towns nearby, weird smells, weird tasting waters, they believe that they are doing things that are poisoning the environment out there. And yes, I'm aware, like I said at the beginning, this is a chemical warfare place. They test chemical weapons on this base. But they claim it's for study purposes about, being better prepared for a chemical attack or for preventing this, that, or the other thing. Don't fool yourself, guys. The United States, just like every other country that says they're not looking into biological weapons, they're liars. Dugway is a proven biological weapons testing site. Now, they say they're testing for defense because procuring and creating biological weapons is against international law. But many of us, researchers, independent witnesses, ex-military personnel, many people have said that they are doing weapons-grade, bioengineered weapons. They're doing testing of these chemical weapons at this base, and they're creating new chemical weapons at this base. One of the things that are supposedly going on at this base as well is a look into UFO-related implants. There have been a few people who claim to have, over the years, had implants put in them by a UFO of one species or another. Dugway has been said to be trying to get in contact with some of these people to do studies on these implants. Well, the U.S. government's never even officially recognized these implants as something that's a real issue. They've always blown it off. But at Dugway, no. They're not only interested in it, but they want to run a program to actually study these implants. So like I said, my view on Dugway is this. I believe that Dugway is testing a lot of our, if not all of our, reverse engineered equipment that we have gotten to work in one form or another. There are a lot of things about these ships, you guys, that we don't know. But we know more than a lot of people think. Ben Rich said it the best, okay? We now have the technology to take ET home. Why do you think he would have said something like that? Because like all these other major technology companies, Lockheed Skunk Works, Boeing, and all these other ones are all in on it. That's how they've kept the secret, you guys. Our government has compartmentalized this in the private sector so that it cannot be looked into by Congress. It cannot be the subject of FOIA requests. FOIA, for those of you who don't know, Freedom of Information Act requests. This is why they use these private companies, you guys, because the private companies can go, get lost. I don't have to tell you anything. Congress cannot make them do it. Now, they've tried to enact a law recently saying that no private company can do these military-type projects without first consulting and blah, blah, blah. It's a joke. You think they're really just going to stand up and throw their hands up in the air and go, okay, you put it on paper, now we're not going to do this anymore. No, they're too deep in now. I mean, I honestly think that, and I don't even know that this would work, but I think the only way you would expect a jump like that, a shift like that, where they openly went, okay, you know what, you're right, we'll stop. The only way I believe that you could do a shift like that would be either total amnesty, a blanket pardon for everyone who's ever lied about the UFOs, covered them up, whatever. But I'm not sure this would work not because people don't want the amnesty, you guys, but because our government is not wanting to give up how far ahead we are or behind we are in recreating and reverse engineering these craft. If, like I've said it in many videos before, if China or any other hostile country gets to unlock this technology the best first, it's game over for everybody else. We lose. So I understand the degree of secrecy. What I don't understand is why hide to us you're doing it? You can hide the details. But why hide the fact that you're doing it in general? We all know that we want to stay militarily ahead of our adversaries. That's a given. To why our country pays what it does to the military. I mean, the military in our country gets more money than any other military in the world. There's a reason for it. But to not even tell us the basics of, hey, yeah, just so you know, you're not alone. Or, hey, just so you know, we are alone, but we have visitors coming from other dimensions or other time periods. You know, give us something. That's not going to impede you getting to the technology first or reverse engineering the technology first. Heck, if anything, it might put a coal under some of these smart people we have in this country and, you know, light a fire up under them to come help you out and apply for the jobs that are entailed in these types of things, like the, electronic engineers and things like that. So, I mean, it might even be able to help you if you put out something like that. But the fact that they put out nothing and then expect us to believe whatever weird stories they give us, it's just kind of odd. Now, as far as disappearing aircraft or invisible convoys of different vehicles, there's also been reports of invisible vehicles, you guys, that have become visible. I'm talking about regular, like, everyday pickup trucks. I mean, obviously, they're not regular if they're disappearing and reappearing, but these things have been supposedly witnessed becoming visible right out of thin air. Like they were parked on the ridge the whole time. So are they experimenting with the technologies of invisibility? Is it just UFO reverse engineered technology they work on at this base, or is it other technologies they're working on in conjunction with the UFO phenomenon? Like I said, we already know that they do things that involve chemical agents and bioweapons and things of that nature. But what I'm interested in is deeper than that. I want to know, do you know that no one has declassified any of the actual sizes of the underground bunkers at Dugway? You cannot find even a rough estimate by anyone who's ever been inside. Now, there have been people who worked there who said that they've heard via a third person how big these things are. And the one that came up the most from what I saw was roughly 1,200 square miles of underground base at Dugway. That's a lot of room, guys. On a base that's basically the size of Rhode Island, that's a large portion underground. So what do you guys think they're doing out there? Do you think that this is a base just strictly for the re-engineering, or I'm sorry, the reverse engineering? I couldn't think of the term. The reverse engineering of UFO craft. Do you think that we are, building our own, like the TR-3Bs at this base? Or do you believe, like some people, and believe that they've moved the actual crafts to this base? Like I said, I don't particularly believe that they've moved the craft to this base, but it is a possibility. I have a few reasons why I don't believe that, mostly just because of how much attention this base has gotten over the years. I don't believe that they want something that hot information-wise at a base that's already getting a lot of attention because of the heat that they've created on this base with leaked chemicals and all other manner of incidences on this base. Now, there are state-of-the-art laboratories under this base that we know of, and by state-of-the-art, I mean brand new, best technology. It would put anything at Area 51 to shame. This place we do know from Freedom of Information Act requests, we do know that Dugway has gotten so much, like a ridiculous amount of funding within the last probably 15 years or so. But this base was supposed to be top of the line as it was constructed. So why are we paying so much for this base? I personally believe it's because we're using the money instead of the projects it was approved for. We're using them to build things like the TR-3B. These craft are amazing. I've talked to people who have seen this thing firsthand. And if it wasn't for very small details, you wouldn't know that it wasn't extraterrestrial. And the only reason the person that I spoke with specifically about this, the only reason he knew it wasn't a UFO was because of a very small detail that not a lot of people were able to see because they weren't as close to the craft as the man that I spoke with. Now, he was close enough to this craft. I'm going to keep his name out of this because I told him I would, but I've been corresponding with him for a while now. And according to him, this craft was less than 40 feet above him as it flew by. And the reason he was able to get so close to this craft is because he was hiking in Utah's slot canyons. For those of you who don't know, riddled throughout the Utah desert are these really narrow slot canyons. Some of them are 15, 20, 25 feet deep. And a lot of avid hikers will go out there and they'll explore these slot canyons. Well, he said that he was down in a slot canyon when he had an eerie feeling. He described it as pins and needles and the hair standing up all over his body. So he makes his way up, climbing up the vertical wall face. As he gets to the top, he's looking around. He doesn't see anything. And he looks up. And slightly, I think it was to his right, might have been to his left, and slightly off to one side, and about 40 feet above him, was a triangle craft that was fairly large. It was triangular, like I said. It had 3 lights on each, 1 light on each point, and then a 4th light in the center that was larger than the others. It had a few red lights underneath that were very small, but still visible. And he said that he stood there for what felt like probably 20 minutes. He said in reality it was probably closer to 5, but he felt like it took forever watching this craft. And as if it noticed him, all of a sudden it slightly turned direction and, darted off. It was gone. It took him, he said, I think he said 3 seconds to make it to the horizon. Like it was just a speck. What did he see in the deserts of Utah? Was this one of the TR-3Bs? He does believe so. Just because he's done research on it and he found out that what people are describing as this looks most like what he saw. So is the TR-3B really one of our own reverse engineered craft? Or is it an alien spaceship that we've been able to somehow make work? Or that we found that was still functional and we've learned how to operate it? I believe it's man-made. I believe the TR-3B is at Dugway Proving Grounds 100%. But there's going to be some interesting news coming here in the next few months, I have a feeling, you guys, from not just Dugway, but from our government in general. Switching off of the Dugway for a minute, you guys, there's a lot of really high-end meetings going on right now behind the scenes as in regards to UAP. Congressional House Oversight Committee, different channels in different 3-lettered agencies. All of them are having massive amounts of leaks and things coming forward. I don't know if this is an artificial disclosure. I don't know if this is one of their own doing, that they're choosing to now disclose and start disclosing more and more of this information, or if this is a genuine, people have fought for these leaks and obtained these leaks, and so we've kind of put them in a position where they have to disclose now. I'd like to think they're doing it because they just know they can't hide the secret anymore. A lot of their own people are starting to come out and be whistleblowers and talk about these things. So, put in the chat. Let me know what you think about this. But the next time you're driving through the Utah desert, if you look up in the sky you might be able to see a UFO, even if it's man-made. Thanks for watching, you guys. This has been another episode of Straight Jacket White Rabbit. I love and appreciate you all. Please feel free, hit that like button, subscribe button if you're not a member already. Consider joining our members group for the rabbit hole, you guys. We can use all the support we can get, and it gives you access to some cool stuff. Also, for my members, I've got some new content coming up this week of a personal nature, kind of introduce you to the background of my house. I'm going to show you some of my horror movie collection, possibly introduce you to some of my family. So looking forward to that. Love you guys all. Be safe. Keep your eyes to the sky, keep your ears to the ground, and more importantly than anything, just love each other. Once again, this is Straight Jacket White Rabbit signing off.